What's going on, Josh? Oh my God, I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. How's it going, man?
It's doing pretty well. It's been a few days.
It's
We're
been a couple days, yeah.
a little later on this one, but it's because we got a lot to go through.
Yeah, school's been a lot. Got a bunch of midterms, but I can't leave football out of the equation. I was getting restless towards the end of this, but I'm excited. It's a beautiful, or maybe not that beautiful Monday here in St. Louis. I don't know how it is down in Gville, but man, we got some football to talk about. Combine just wrapping up. We're starting to get some trades, movement in the market, mock drafts. Everything is looking completely different than what it was, when we talked, about a week and a half ago. So there's a lot to go through, but let me just ask, how are you doing, Josh?
Doing pretty good. Like I said, just, catching up on some of the combine results, just been hanging out, kind of been a little antsy for this week's episode.
Yeah, I mean that's the plan, and again we're going with a different background this time. I know it was Philip Lindsay, paying homage to the greats. I like to spice it up. I'm going with a personal fan favorite of mine as a Packers fan, Nick Collins, right there.
Hey,
Super Bowl winning safety, beautiful pick six in the Super Bowl. Career derailed by injuries, but man, a fan favorite for the Packers. So paying homage once again
yeah.
to the Packer Nation. But we don't have a lot of time to waste, so let's get right into it. And I
Mhm.
think before we do our divisional grades, we're talking about a couple trades. I think three specifically that happened. And I guess I'll bring up the first one. And that was a very rare thing you don't see a lot, player for player swaps with the Titans and the Jets. Jets getting Tavondre Sweat, who has 2 years left on his rookie deal, and the Titans reuniting Robert Saleh with Jermaine Johnson. What do you think?
It is very rare you see a player for player trade, and I think it's a win-win on both sides. It was pretty obvious from the start that Devontae Sweat didn't quite fit Robert Saleh's defense. Robert Saleh's never really had that big body, strictly run-stopping defensive tackle, and just kind of didn't fit what he wanted. And he ended up getting a pass rusher that he himself drafted. Jermaine Johnson is someone that is a former Pro Bowler, has played really well in the past, has dealt with some injuries. I know some knee injuries, and it's kind of limited a little bit of his production. So if he's able to come back fully healthy, it really helps this Titans defense and pass rush. For the Jets side, obviously it kind of shows what they're going to do with pick number 2 in this upcoming draft, as well as getting a massive human being on that D-line to help that run defense, which was very poor last year. So honestly, it's kind of a win-win. I don't think it quite changes too much in his upcoming draft,
Mm.
but we could see a little bit of a difference in the approach for the Titans side with who they go with in the first round.
Yeah, I actually 100% agree with you. I would give a little bit of the upper hand to the Jets. So
Hmm.
I think that the times are coming with Jermaine Johnson. I think another key point of this is the contract life. Jermaine Johnson is on the last year of his deal. And you said coming off, he had a Pro Bowl year about 2 years back, but he's been coming off of major injuries. Didn't necessarily have the production that he wanted, but you're kind of bringing in it's almost like reminds me of like the Jalen Phillips move, where it's a
A
guy
little
who's
bit.
had a lot of injury issues. You're going to bring him in a familiar system. He'll get to play a pivotal role. But for the Jets, you're moving off an expiring contract. And, Tavondre Sweat's got 2 years left on his deal. And I think Tavondre Sweat's very underrated for what he does.
Mm.
He's just a massive game wrecking human being. He's not going to be your pivotal pass rusher, but he is what you need on your interior of your defensive lineman, specifically for their poor run defense. I would give a little bit of the upper hand to the Jets in that respect, but I still think both teams walk away from this trade satisfied with what they have.
No, for sure. But yeah, so, it's rare we see a player for player
Yeah.
trade, but I guess we can really only wait to see how the season goes and see if impacts are made by both players. Our second trade actually happened today, and that is Titus Howard, the offensive guard / tackle, going from the Texans, to the Browns for a 26 fifth
Fourth.
round pick.
Or is it
Fourth?
fourth or
I
fifth?
think it was a fifth.
It was a fifth? Oh, wow. Yeah. This is, I mean, I'm a little surprised. I'm more surprised specifically with the massive extension, 3 years, 63 million, about 20 million per year for a solid offensive guard. Titus Howard, former first round pick for Houston, played a lot of right tackle, was okay. but they moved him inside the guard and he really stepped up. I think you and I were talking about beforehand. Fantastic pass blocker, not as much of a run blocker, but listen, this checks boxes for the Browns. They are desperate for offensive line help. They need bodies in there really bad. It's definitely a bit of an overpay.
Hmm.
I think I'm under exaggerating it. Paying 20 million a year for just like a average to above average offensive guard, but when you're in, especially in free agency markets and in the trade off seasons, and for the position that the Browns are in, where basically all 5 of their offensive linemen have a chance to leave,
Hmm.
leave their team, you need to bring in bodies. I like this for Cleveland. I'm surprised that the Texans did this. I think it was probably because they didn't want to pay him what that
Right.
kind of contract, but it creates a new, the Texans had offensive line issues. They're going to get more. I think the Browns got actually pretty good value out of the trade for what they
Hmm.
got. So I think they're the winners, but I just think it is a lot of money for that kind of player.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of money. It is going to be interesting to see if he plays at guard or tackle position in Cleveland. But for the Texans, and we talked about it all last year, is their offensive line, the issues. CJ Stroud's on his last year of his rookie deal. They're trying to push. And so giving away arguably your second best offensive lineman is kind of questionable. But, money matters and kind of to see about that. But third trade also with the Houston Texans. Texans get running back David Montgomery, and the Lions get Juice Shrugs, a 4th-round pick, and a 7th-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, again, another interesting one. Texans going back. The thing, Texans and their old running backs,
Hmm.
Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb,
David
now David
Montgomery.
Montgomery. I
Yeah.
mean, it's tough for the Lions to get rid of Sonic and Knuckles, but I think for the trade value, they did a really good job. David Montgomery was kind of getting phased out of that offense more and more by Jameer Gibbs. So being able to get a 4th rounder, a 7th rounder, and Juice Shrugs, and Juice Shrugs is by no means the best player in the world, but the former 2nd-round pick certainly adds offensive line depth, specifically on that interior, which they desperately need. For the Texans, I'm not sure where to kind of put this. A Woody Marks, David Montgomery running back tandem is not necessarily a crazy thing, but they needed someone in the run game to rely on. I think you're going to get David Montgomery another shot. I'm not the biggest fan of this when it comes to
Hmm.
Houston because, again, he's 28 years old, injury history, hasn't, you're basically kind of slotting him as your running back 1. He hasn't had that role in a while. But again, it's adding bodies. And as you just said earlier, you need to contend. You want to contend. You got to bring in guys on CJ Stroud's rookie contract that you think can play. And, David Montgomery is a physical force as a running back. So I'm a little iffy on this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, as you said, David Montgomery kind of fits, the older running back style that the Texans have used in the last, honestly, about 10 years. You go back to David Johnson from the Cardinals, but, you really think about this, and the Texans are giving up yet another young offensive lineman.
Yeah.
And you aren't quite sure what type of production you want to get from David Montgomery. He hasn't been that bell cow running back in a while. He had a significant knee injury 2 seasons ago. This past season, he, took a lot less snaps. If it was because of production wise, injury, or just being outplayed, um, kind of just have to see about that. It is interesting though for the Lions to see if they continue that 2-back system, if they target someone in the offseason draft, or even Craig Reynolds kind of steps up, or if it's just Jameer Gibbs in that system.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to see. I think this is another trade is slightly worse for the Texans.
Hmm.
I understand it from a point of view of trying to win now. And if they think David Montgomery is the best running back on the market right now, then it's one thing. But they already had so many question marks, especially with Joe Mixon this past year. Kind of have to wait and see. It's interesting that they make back-to-back trades today.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's starting. It's starting up.
It
There's
is.
certainly
Yep.
going to be a lot more. We've already seen so many cap casualties
Hmm.
that are flooding into the market, so we'll get a lot of that too. But yeah, I guess with that being said, we'll kind of dive into mock off seasons, and we got 2 divisions. The
NFC East, AFC East.
So we're gonna get right into that. And Josh, I don't know. I'll kind of hand the mic to you to start.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a specific team or division that you want to dive into first?
You know what? I want to start off with the Giants. This is a
Oh,
team
okay.
that's, under a new regime. Don't quite know if they're in a win now mode or trying to figure out what they're doing. So with the Giants, obviously John Harbaugh there. There might be some connection with his former team, but Giants start off with only $5.7 million in cap. So the very first move I'm going to make is I'm trading edge rusher Kayvon Thibodeau to the Patriots for a 2027 third round pick. Thibodeau has 1 year left on his deal. He's a former double-digit sack, top 5 pick, I believe. But I think in this defense, you can't not give snaps to both Brian Burns and Abdul Carter. Thibodeau had an underwhelming year, 2.5 sacks. So I think this is great value from him.
I like that.
I think it saves about $14 million. I'm also restructuring 3 players: edge rusher Brian Burns, defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence, and left tackle Andrew Thomas. These are probably their 3 biggest contracts. All 3 of them are relatively young. You can add a few more years to the back end and add some signing bonuses. I am also cutting 4 players. It has been reported that they're most likely going to release Bobby Okereke, so I'm cutting him. Record-setting left tackle James Hudson, D lineman Chauncey Golston, and running back Devin Singletary. With all of these cuts, wage restructures, I go from about 5.7 to 78 million. So, but with all that money, it comes with them having to re-sign some key players. Jermaine Elmaner, the right tackle, about 2 years, 17.5 million. Greg Van Roten, the left guard, 1 year, 5 million, is very serviceable this year. Big contract. Wandale Robinson, 4 years, 70.5 million coming over. He's had 2 back-to-back 1,000-yard, or right under 1,000, over 100 catches in both years. I'm also going great slot receiver. I'm also going with corner Cordell Flott, 4 year, 38 million. Probably their most consistent corner that they've had on their roster. So that all leaves me about 60-ish, about 50 to 60 million. I'm also signing a few key players. Get ready, because I'm signing a few Ravens also.
Okay.
I'm going with D lineman Draymond Jones, 2 year, 20.6 million. I'm also going with tight end Isaiah Likely, 2 years, 17.6, and center Tyler Linderbaum, 4 years, 71 million. 3 players there. It's a lot of money,
That is a
but it's
lot,
that connection. With that, I'm also signing corner Nashawn Wright from the Bears, 3 year, 50 million. Linebacker Devin Bush, 3 year, 26 million, and left tackle / right tackle Fred Johnson, 1 year, 1.5. So I'm getting, upgrading that D line, corner, tight end, linebacker, center, offensive line, all of that. So with all of that, I have their first 3 picks: pick 5, pick 37, and pick 105. Pick 5, Sonny Styles, linebacker, Ohio State.
Oh, wow.
I originally had him getting Caleb Downs. I think you look at this team right now with Bobby Okereke gone. Devin Bush is a good all-around linebacker, but I'm letting Micah McFadden walk, and you need a pure athlete like Sonny Styles at that linebacker spot. He kind of also fits a little bit of the mold of Kyle Hamilton, if that's how they want to play him. But incredible in coverage, athletic freak. One downside to him is he does kind of get absorbed in the run game quite a lot, because he's 6'5", 240 pounds, but that former safety, his instincts still kind of stick sometimes as a safety rather than a linebacker. So he has a little trouble disengaging from blocks, but the potential is incredible there. Pick 37, we kind of talked to him a few times. Emmanuel Pregon, offensive guard from Oregon, come in, compete with both John Runyon and Greg Van Roten for that guard spot. And then pick 105, going D tackle, DN, Zane Durant from Penn State. A little bit of an undersized D tackle. He's about 280, athletic freak. Again, that 40-yard, he was incredible. And he can come in and play that 3-4 D end.
I like that a lot.
So,
no,
yeah.
it's good. I think the Ravens are I'm saying the Ravens,
yeah, basically
Giants,
the Ravens.
I think that's a big deal. I think they're going to be poaching a lot of guys. I just think that connection's so important. The Ravens, those are big ones. So yeah, I think it's a overall fantastic. A lot of moving pieces, and the Sonny Styles pick. I think I've seen him being mocked as high as 2. I don't think he's gonna go with the second overall pick, but I
Yep.
could definitely see him going to 5
hmm
and kind of replacing Okereke as that freak athlete linebacker.
And especially with both Javon Holland still under contract, Tyler Nubin has
Yeah.
been playing decent. Dane Belden is a free agent in that safety room that they might bring back,
Mhm.
but they have 2 locked-in starters, and Caleb Downs, while he would be an immediate starter, is not their biggest need at this point.
Yeah.
So Sonny Styles is where I went with.
Okay. Okay. I like that. Now, I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I got the Dallas Cowboys, and we got a lot to do with this team, a lot of
Mhm.
movement. We're going to start with cap. We have a bunch of cap issues. We are in negative $60 million in cap. However, easy fix for them. A lot of restructuring. We're going to restructure Dak Prescott. That's going to save us about $31 million in cap. DD will save us 19. Tyler Smith will save us 18 million. Quinnen Williams will save us 15 million. Osa Odigizua will save us about 12 million. Couple cuts. We're going to cut Kenny Clark in his $21 million cap hit. We're also going to cut Terrence Steele and Malik Hooker. Steele will save us about 9 million, and Malik Hooker will save us about 7. I know Steele's a little bit of a controversial one,
Mhm.
but they did have Tyler Smith slide in at that left tackle position, and then you put Guyton back into his original right tackle spot. I think it could work out just fine. Re-signings. We got a couple re-signings. We're going to re-sign Kenny Clark, but we're going to re-sign him on a cheaper deal. I think he could get, instead of 21 million, I think you can get him for about, a solid like 5 million, more of a team-friendly deal. It's about maybe like a 2-year, $10 million deal because he did play really well. I think he's going to want to stay there. We're going to re-sign Jadeveon Clowney for a 1-year, $6 million contract. We're going to break the bank on Brandon Aubrey.
Mhm.
Give him about a 4-year, almost $35 million contract, being him one of the highest paid kickers. He's commanding he wants almost about 10 million a year. I
Man.
feel like you could go a little bit under that, but I think it's going to be a massive contract on his part. And then finally, we're going to bring back Donovan Wilson on a 3-year, $21 million deal. Okay. Now
Wow.
we got
Yeah.
some money to spend. First off, for free agent signings, and keep in mind, you're going to see a big theme when it comes to their moves.
Mhm.
We're going to bring in Quincy Williams, linebacker for the New York Jets, reunite
I
him
like
with
that.
his
Yep.
brother. Give him about a 1-year, $10 million contract. You need bodies in that linebacking room. We're going to bring in a former Philadelphia Eagle, that is Reed Blankenship, on a 2-year,
Mhm.
$15 million contract to play next to Donovan Wilson. We're going to bring in edge rusher Malcolm Kuntz to a 2-year, $20 million contract. He's not necessarily going to break the bank, but he's a high upside player. When you get him in the mix with Ezraku and Clowney, I think that's a good edge rushing group to have.
Yep. If he can stay healthy, for sure.
Yes, we're going to sign Olamide Zacchaeus to help replace the Jalen Tolbert signing, or Jalen Tolbert walking. Going to bring him on a 1-year, $2 million contract. And the final one is a former Jacksonville Jaguar. We're going to bring in Greg Newsome on a 3-year,
Mhm.
$28 million deal. Cornerback is definitely a need. Deron Bland and Siobhan Revel. But other than that, they have diddly squat. I think Newsome
Mhm.
is, again, a pretty expensive contract, not the craziest out of all the corners, but I think he is a reliable corner to Deron Bland to bring in and upgrade that defense. So now comes the draft. They have 2 first-round picks, but that's it. They don't have a second or a third-round pick. So we are going to have to spend wisely. With my first pick, I'm going to go with Mansour Delane out of
Okay.
LSU. Again, you can never use too many corners in their position. I do think there's a strong possibility that Caleb Downs goes to them. I had that in my original, but
Mhm.
if they bring in Wilson and Blankenship, I just can't see them bringing on another safety. And I think, Mansour Delane, Siobhan Revel, Greg Newsome, and Deron Bland gives you an excellent cornerback group to massively improve that defense. Now, on my second pick, I'm going to address another position they really needed, and that's CJ Allen, linebacker out of Georgia. I had Sonny Styles here all the time, but after that combine performance, I just don't think that he's going to fall into their
Mhm.
laps. So get the next best guy available. CJ Allen, linebacker, fantastic Georgia prospect. Maybe not the prototypical size, but just an all around fantastic ball player. And yeah, so that is a complete reshaping of this defense. I think it's fantastic for Dallas.
No, definitely. I think you definitely nailed it on the spot of our offense put up like 30 plus points every game, but also hey, our defense put up 30 points
Yeah.
every game. Just having to be able to consistently make moves on the defense is what the Cowboys need to do. They may not have all the money right now, but you restructure some of the bigger contracts, and I agree with you. I think you can never have too many corners as well. And I don't
Yeah.
know if Siobhan Ravel is quite ready to be a full-time starter yet. So Delane, Newsome, and Bland is a good group of three corners that are all three very physical and are all should fit the system. But yeah. So after those two teams, a little bit different, I have the Commanders.
Okay.
Commanders currently have about 67 million, maybe it down to 64. Which is a lot of money. And
So, yeah.
looking at this team, there wasn't any smart restructures I could do. So I'm staying at 67 million right now. But I have two big extensions. Jeremy Tunsil, star left tackle. I know he's already, about 32, 33, but I'm giving him a 4-year, $117 million deal. You can never have, it's hard to get a good left tackle, and it's even harder to keep them. So Jeremy Tunsil, massive deal. And then Dorrance Armstrong, their D lineman, 3-year, $58 million, had an outstanding year this year, former Cowboy.
Okay.
Cuts. We just saw today Marshawn Lattimore, number one cut, sees about 18 million. And then Jartavius Martin, safety, another cut. He's kind of stuck in that room. It's another about 8 million. So freeing up a lot of space there. And then re-signings, no big names. Jeremy McNichols, running back, 1 year, 2.6. He was really good third down running back this year. They kind of had a very interesting running back room. So he's kind of like the veteran of the group. Traylon Burks, played pretty well in his limited snaps.
Crazy catch.
Yep. Give him a 1 year, 3.5 million. Chris Paul, offensive guard, 2 year, 9.3. And then they just signed Nick Algretti, 2 year, I'm guessing about a $6 million contract. No one huge, but a lot of key depth and a few starters. Now, they have a lot of money. They have a young quarterback who's on a rookie deal. I have them signing some key players. Wide receiver, Christian Kirk, 1 year, 5.3, play a little bit of that slot. Ray Hendrickson, 2 year, 51 million. Chika Conquo, 3 year, 24 million. Caden Mays, center, 3 year, 36.7. Cam Taylor Britt, 3 year, 27.5. Devin Lloyd, 3 years, 60 million.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Oh my goodness, man.
It's a lot.
Wow.
But to me, it kind of fits a little bit of the Giants and the Texans. Rookie quarterback on a rookie deal. You've seen what he can do fully healthy. Go all in. Defense is a massive need for him. Get a key edge rusher in Trey Hendrickson and get a true middle linebacker, Devin Lloyd, and your Marshawn Lattimore replacement in Cam Taylor Britt. So a lot of work, but I think they have the money to do it. And then in the draft, they have pick 7, pick 71, pick 145. Pick 7, I'm going with wide receiver Jordan Tyson from Arizona State. Then the Commanders do not have a second round pick. Pick 71, I'm going with Bud Clark, safety from TCU. Outstanding season this last year, had 4 interceptions. He's a little bit of a different build. He's about 6'2", 6'3", only about 180 pounds. So that physicality is still something he's working on. And then pick 145, I'm adding depth in that D-line. I'm going with Malachi Lawrence, defensive end from UCF. Really good combine. He is a guy that could very quickly jump up boards this year. So add some depth on that D-line.
Love it. Love it. Love it. And a lot of moves. And this will be the
moves.
second year. I mean, it's surprising to me how many moves they made, and yet they still have all this cap space.
Yep.
But I think they're going to, again, try to push the needle a little bit more with what they want to do. So I like all the offseason moves. So that would be a dream come true. But man, and then obviously Jordan Tyson, Terry McLaurin, It's been a lot of questions. Tyson, I've seen Tyson go all over different big boards in certain places, but I still think he just brings that pure potential of
Hmm.
he like has the highest ceiling out of any of the receivers around.
Definitely.
So,
His combine was great. He almost broke the record for bench press for wide receivers. I think he had
mm,
27. And his play strength shows through film. He's someone that if you can get him, I hate to say this, but locked in throughout the whole game. He had plays where he was taking them off, blocking issues. If you get him locked in, he can be a true pros pro and really elevate this offense.
yeah, I like it, man. All right. The last one I have for everyone is the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is I kind of had to go back and forth in my head because there's not much they can do.
Hmm.
They cannot really restructure any contracts. They have some really big extensions coming up, but I think they're going to want to wait because specifically it's kind of the Jordan Davis versus Jalen Carter debate on who they're going
Hmm.
to want to extend first. Because my opinion, I really find it hard. You're probably going to guarantee a ton of money each. I don't think they're going to be able to retain both of them. That's something for another day. If $500,000 in cap, there's really not a lot of changes they can make. They can cut. I think really the only move I think they make is cutting Michael Carter the second. I know they
Hmm.
just traded for him, but the cap hit is 8 million. They need to make some space with what they're going to do. I think they're going to cut him. However, I have some more things that I am excited to say. Is I really do think that the guy is on the move, and I'm
AJ
gonna
Brown.
mock it. I am gonna send AJ Brown to the Buffalo Bills in
Okay.
exchange for their first this year and their fourth round pick. They asking price right now is a first and another top 100. I think that's way too much for
Hmm.
a guy who's I think about 28. I think the teams are going to kind of lower their asking price to maybe like a fourth or a fifth along that with that first. I think Buffalo has the opportunity to get this is for, I guess, with respects to Buffalo. I think Buffalo has the opportunity to get what they've been looking for an alpha wide receiver one in the window that they have. But for Philly, one, you're saving a ton of cap. I think it's like trading him, you 20, $21 million. He's getting up there in age. Definitely saw a slow bit of progression this past year, had dealt with some injuries, a lot of beef. I think locker room issues are there too. I think, Philly is very cap constrained. And I think, we've seen him try to get younger in a lot of different places. I think this is a perfect opportunity to do so, moving on from a veteran. It's hard, but I do think that if they get a first and a fourth for a 28-year-old wide receiver, I think it's a great move on their part. Could be a third, but I'm going to mock a fourth right now. So now I have one signing that I think they make, and that is signing Von Miller to a 1 year, $5 million deal. He was surprisingly productive. I had like 8 sacks.
Hmm.
They've been rotating a lot of edge rushers. Get a guy with some veteran leadership. I don't know if they're going to bring back Brandon Graham again. Um, I think Von Miller, provides for that young group on the outside. So with the draft, we have an extra first round pick. With my first round pick, I'm going to be selecting Denzel Boston, wide receiver out of Washington. This is the perfect replacement for AJ Brown. Without them, I would definitely think that they would go Kenyon Sadiq here to replace Dallas Goddard because I think he is fantastic. But if you trade away AJ Brown, you need a new wide
Hmm.
receiver to replace him. Denzel Boston, unbelievable athlete, great at the catch point. I think he is a very unsung hero in this wide receiver class. I think Philly would be very happy to get him as a weapon for AJ Brown. With my next first round pick, I'm going to go with defensive end edge rusher Keldrick Falk out of Auburn.
Okay.
He's been very all over draft boards, kind of a guy you need to develop a little bit more. I think bringing him along with Von Miller, the intangibles are there. I know Philly really kind of likes those raw, freakishly athletic guys. I think Falk fits the bill. I think, I've seen him where he gets mocked outside the first round. But I just think edge rusher is going to be such an important part of this class. I think a bunch of them are going to go early. I think they need to address pass rush with the leaving of Jalen Phillips. Keldrick Fault to me, he's a more of a hand in the dirt guy, but man, he can play. They need just big bodies on that defense alongside Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. So those are my 2 first-round picks. And then with my second-round pick, I'm going to go with Michael Trigg, tight end out of Baylor. They need to address the tight end position. I think they go young here. Trigg falling in your lap, a second-round perfect receiving tight end. Him or Eli Stowers, but I think Stowers is going to go before Trigg.
Yeah.
Again, I think this is a fantastic move for them. And then with my third-round pick, we're going to address the hole at safety and defensive back, and I'm taking Zakee Wheatley out of Penn State. Kind of a do-it-all gadget guy. Was excellent at Penn State. You can line him up at a strong safety. You can line him up at corner. He can play a ton of different positions. They love their versatility on the secondary. Bring him and add some depth. So, yeah, big and interesting offseason for the Philadelphia Eagles.
No, for sure. And I really like that trade. I think it is time to kind of depart what it's been. And, Devontae Smith, former first rounder, see if he can truly be that wide receiver 1. But yeah, it's interesting. We could see a slight change of path if the Eagles do make these type of trades, if they slowly become, not exactly contenders and almost go into a mini rebuild.
I just think they need to get younger. And as I said, we've talked about it before where teams are designing contracts for restructures. And this is something that I think is going to really bite Philly in the future that, guys aren't talking about is their, top 5 guys are getting paid a lot of money and there's no wiggle room around it. And also, this team is getting older. They're core players, specifically another position I could really possibly see him targeting is offensive line.
Yep.
Maybe a tackle. I don't see them using it with their first 2 picks, but I could definitely see it somewhere in the second or third round. One, you need depth, but also, I wouldn't be surprised if one of those guys has another injury that they come out and retire. I mean, Landon Dickerson almost retired this year.
And Lane Johnson, both of them. So
Lane Johnson. So that's something they're going to probably need to address. I do think, though, that they are going to want to wait and kind of have a chance to keep those guys, bring in positions that they already need to maybe hopefully contend for another year. But it's very mixed to see what they're going to do. But this is, I think, a great offseason.
No, for sure. There's one player that I've thought about. I can't tell you how many times that would kind of fit perfectly on this team and really cheap. It's Evan Neal.
Yeah, I do see that.
Yeah, he could kind of flow a little bit in that Mekhi Becton role where he kind of goes there, kind of sits for a little while, potentially play guard, and could really resurrect his career.
Or they could just bring back Mekhi Becton again because he did perform. But again, it's just they are so constrained in what they're going to do. And I think they need to kind of break free from some of that. Yeah, that's it. That's it
For sure.
NFC East. Now we're on to the AFC East, Josh. Who do you got first?
Oh, gosh. All right. I have the Dolphins.
Man.
So this one, I'm doing it a little bit different. This is a team I believe is in full rebuild mode, could potentially have the first overall pick next year. With that being said, their money's also it's difficult because of some certain contracts. As I go through this team, I'll go through my thought process. So on this team, there is no easy restructure. There's no one that's going to be able to give you more money.
Yeah.
They currently sit at about $2 million, but to free up some space, I do have a few trades. I am sending Tua Tagovailoa to the Jets, and I'm swapping 7th round picks. I think it's about as much value as you can get from them at this point. I think the Jets really are kind of the only team that might see something in them. The Cardinals don't quite have enough money. So Jets swapping 7th. Get off that contract as much as you can. I am also treating Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Bengals for a 4th and a 6th. I think that's kind of his value at this point. He's over 30, still very talented. I think for the Bengals, they get a much better player in that secondary, and as they continue their, contending. So that with those 2 trades, I have about $19 million, which is still not a lot. I am also extending Devon Achane, starting running back, 3-year, $36.7 million. He's their only form of offense this past year. Incredible running back. I am also going to re-sign tight end Greg Dulcich. That's my only re-signing on this team. He had incredible end of the year. He did play really well, but I truly just don't have a lot of money on this team. I am also signing one player, quarterback Malik Willis, 2-year, about $22 million. That's about $13 million this year. They don't have a lot of money, and most of his contract comes in the second year. I think he is your bridge quarterback for next season and potentially season afterwards if you target a quarterback next year. So with all that, it's not a lot of re-signings. It's not a lot of signings, but I'm actually going to talk about their first 5 picks. So you have a first round pick, a second, and 3 thirds.
Wow.
And I
Okay.
feel they have a lot of draft. I mean, this is without any of the traits that I also incorporated. So I'm kind of trying to talk through this because they are at a point where they just need best player available at every position.
Okay.
So pick 11, I kind of talked about him earlier. Master Delane, cornerback from LSU. He is probably my top corner in this draft.
It's mine too.
There was a thing last season where he had like more incompletions his way compared to completions. Very physical man corner. They're losing Russell Douglas, Jack Jones. This is a guy who can be cornerback 1 immediately. Pick 43, going with Romello Height, edge rusher from Texas Tech. He was the 1-2 punch to David Bailey this past year, and you watched on that film, and honestly, there were plays where he was outplaying David Bailey. Had a really good combine, ran in like the 4.6s, 4.7s. Incredible athlete, a little unpolished, but between him and Chop Robinson, I think it's a really high potential young edge rusher group. Pick 75, I'm going with Jake Slaughter, center from Florida. He cut Aaron Brewer, and this is a guy that's, all-American, all-academic, fantastic center. Pick 87, I'm going with wide receiver Deion Burks from Oklahoma. Really fast guy, ran a 4.3, was Oklahoma's top weapon on offense this past year. Has the potential to not exactly replace Tyreek Hill, but add value in that receiver room. Lastly, I know it's a lot of picks. Pick 90, Michael Taff, safety from Texas. He's able to play a little bit all over that secondary, both free safety and strong safety. Really good in the run game. Not the biggest athlete, but instinctually very smart and very good and very physical in the run game, especially.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's so tough being a Dolphins fan. I'm not, but I could feel. But I do like that draft. I think cut the dead weight. I'm a little surprised about the Aaron Brewer move because he was fantastic this season. Really, one of the better centers. So interesting to see that. But I think Jake Slaughter is a good replacement. But yes, I like the strategy. Bet you gotta go best player available. You're not in the mood to draft scheme. Malik Willis too is also really something to monitor because I think the Dolphins seem like the prototypical fit. I do feel like they're going to try to target some former Packers because I know there's a decent amount in free agency. Malik Willis seems like one of those guys. But the rumors have been picking up that he is going to go to Arizona basically on a 2-year, $60 million contract.
Yep. Both the Cardinals and Jets have been in talks. His contract to me is all over the place.
Yeah.
I could see, on here it was about a 1-year, $10 million. I could see, him getting $30 million a year. It's more of him being that bridge quarterback for a year or two because next year's draft has potential to be one of the best quarterback groups. And this Dolphins team, how it's structured, could be one of those poor teams in like the top 5 of the draft.
Yes, 100%. But yeah, I like your thinking, man.
Full rebuild
time in South Beach. Now we got the New England Patriots. Oh boy, we got some stuff for this one. I'm very up in the air about what to do with them, but they have about $35 million cap. We can make a lot of changes. We're going to restructure Milton Williams' contract, $60 million. We're going to extend Mike Oweno. I think that's how you say it, offensive guard. A 3-year, $67 million. I'll save you about $12 million in cap. And then we can restructure Carlton Davis, save about 10. Now, the shocking move I have for them is cutting Stephon Diggs. Okay. I know he's 1 year into his deal, but looking back at this contract, it's not good. Saving about $17 million in cap for a 33-year-old receiver, to me, I think it's a no-brainer. I could see them possibly trying to restructure his deal to save a little bit, but again, down the line, like in the future, like by the time his contract's done, he'll be closer to 40 than like he is, being closer to 30. So I think he's a cap casualty for them. We're going to re-sign 2 players. Vendarian Lowe, we're going to re-sign him to a 2-year, $3 million deal. Stepped up, really good depth tackle for them. And then we're also going to re-sign Jalen Hawkins to a 3-year, $24 million deal. Really stepped up in that safety position. You don't want that hole with them again. I think you bring him on a nice deal. Now we have about 84 million in cap to work with. That's a lot, but I find it hard to see them replicating what they did last year. So my signings aren't as crazy. I have a couple though. We're going to sign Kyle Van Noy on a 1-year, $3 million contract, bring him back to New England. He's always been a really serviceable guy for them. This is one I don't usually do this because I like to kind of think of them separately. I already had this guy re-signing with his former team, but for the hell of it, I really think that it's gaining traction. And I got Mike Evans signing to the New England Patriots. I was very hesitant at first, but I think there is a really, really strong possibility. He says, I want to go to a championship contender and kind of change it up. I think New England would be the perfect place for him to go. You know, you got Mike Vrabel, you got Drake May. I know it's swapping Stephon Diggs for Mike Evans, but it's a clear upgrade. You got him at a 2-year, $26 million contract. Immediately becomes your star wide receiver 1, which Drake May will absolutely need if they cut Stephon Diggs, even though I don't even think Stephon Diggs is a true wide receiver 1 at this point in his career. But we're going to bring him in. And then my final signing for them, again, we're going to push the contending bounds, is I have Jalen Phillips going to New England. They have invested so much in that defensive line. I think they're just going to want to continue to do it. I think Phillips is a clear upgrade over Chason, even though Chason was fantastic. They're going to want to spend the big bucks on that defensive line. And I think Jalen Phillips, again, he's going to want to go to a contender. It's a fantastic fit, in my personal opinion. All right, now mock draft stuff. Yeah, this is one I was very hard for me to kind of think about in regards to kind of what they wanted to do. So with my first round pick, I'm going to go with Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver out of Indiana. I just think you bring in Mike Evans, but I think they just still need better receiving targets on that team. The receiving group really struggled in the Super Bowl. Drake May absolutely needs weapons. I think it's a great move for their part to kind of say, listen, we're going to bring in Omar Cooper Jr. He's had a fantastic combine. He's definitely a riser. I could definitely see him being in play in the back half of the first round. Let's bring him in. Let's have a field day on that part. My second round pick, I'm going to go with Gabe Jackas out of Illinois. Again, I know I'm bringing in a ton of defensive linemen, which people are like, well, why are you doing that? Because I think that they love it. Vrabel loves to use all these different defensive linemen. I know Jalen Phillips and Kyle Van Noy are kind of 2 guys, but I think Zion Young fits a different bill. I think he's a Mike Vrabel kind of player, definitely a little bit of a bigger defensive end to kind of mix alongside Jalen Phillips, Kyle Van Noy, and Harold Landry. He'll definitely be in play for that defensive line. And then my third round pick, I'm going with Jalen Farmer, offensive guard from Kentucky. I don't think they're going to really address crazy with interior offensive line because they did, bring in Jared Wilson. They brought in Garrett Bradbury. But I do think Farmer's kind of a good backup piece, if not could become an eventual starter. It's a massive offensive guard. 6'5", 320, super physical. Again, brings that Vrabel-esque and provides that needed depth on that offensive line. So that is what I have for New England.
Yeah, I know we say this probably after every offseason, like every team, but I like it. Was it Gabe Jackas or Zion Young that you have
Gabe
drafting?
Jackas.
Gabe Jackas.
Gabe. I think I mixed. Did I mix them up?
You
That's
you said
my
both.
fault. That's my fault.
Gabe Jackas.
It's Gabe Jackas. Yeah, I think Zion Young's going to go higher than that.
Yeah, Gabe Jackas is one of my favorite players in this draft. He is about 6'4", about 270, but I have never seen a player play as fast and like hair on fire. But it's also his biggest red flag is He's also, I've never seen a player get fooled on RPOs or option plays as much as Gabe Jackus does. You pull up any film on him, and he is chasing the running back 100 out of 100 times. He will run himself out of the play to, I'm not joking. Like, you
Yeah.
do a read option, he's crashing every time. But he also, for someone that big, plays so fast and so strong. So I love that pick. Yeah, I think the Mike Evans is very interesting. I think the Patriots perfectly fit what his, I don't want to say needs are, but what he wants as a team.
Mhm.
Good offensive coordinator, good young quarterback, a path to the Super Bowl, a lot of touches. I think that fits perfect. And then, investing in the D line, you can never have, and I say this all the time. I mean, you look at the Seahawks, they had, 8 guys rotating in consistently, and they won the Super Bowl. Like, you always have and always need that rotation of D linemen.
Yeah.
So I love it. Um, but yeah, very quickly, the Dolphins just released Liam Eichenberg, one of their starting offensive guards.
No.
Saves
No.
$2.5 million. But again, back to the rebuild of the
Yeah.
Dolphins. But no, I really do like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I have the Bills. This one is interesting to me. I went in this with the aspect of re-signing your key guys, and I don't. Other than we talked about the a potential AJ Brown trade. I don't really have them signing players in free agency. I think re-signing their guys and then getting quality starting players day one out of the draft is so necessary for them this year. So the Bills have about -8 million. Restructures were tough on this team. I just went with Josh Allen. I'm also giving out some extensions at Oliver, 2-year, about $45 million. Deion Dawkins, 3-year, about 63 and a half, and Osiris Torrance, 3-year, 40 million. Making sure you keep your guys on the offensive line and D line. I also have them cutting Dawson Knox, tight end, Curtis Samuel, and Ty Johnson, backup running back, with your biggest contract being restructured, sending 3 key guys and cutting 3 players. They only have about 40 million. It's
Yeah.
not a lot of money, and they have a lot of key guys to resign. So that includes Joey Bosa, about 2 years, about 27.5 million. Starting offensive lineman Connor McGovern, 3-year, about 50 million. David Edwards, 3-year, 60 million, and Matt Milano, 1-year, 4.5.
Okay. Okay.
I have about 10 million left. And you need about that 10 million for the draft class. I
Yeah.
don't know if they're going to make a lot of free agency moves, and they normally don't.
They don't. No, not really.
So I think their key is resigning their guys, especially offensive line,
Mm-hmm.
and getting quality day one starters from this draft class. So for pick 26, going safety, Emmanuel McNeil Warren out of Toledo.
Yeah.
I think
like that.
he, he might be the second or third best safety in this class. I know he's playing in Toledo, but we just saw what Quinion Mitchell is able to do in the league.
Yep.
I think this is a high quality safety that can play both at free and strong, and him and Taylor Rapp can really play well together, that safety duo. I also have wide receiver Elijah Surratt from Indiana. I think he can be your number 1 outside receiver. That's kind of what they lacked last year. It's uncertain what's going to happen with Keon Coleman.
Yeah.
They're kind of backing, kind of retracing what they said prior. I have him on the roster still. I don't know if a trade happens, releasing, but Elijah Surratt is that big body outside receiver that Josh Allen does really like. I also have pick 91. I'm going Brennan Thompson, wide receiver from Michigan State, 4.26 40. I think he comes in and immediately plays what, Brandon Cooks played this past year, just a deep threat wide receiver. Josh Allen has a cannon of an arm. You have a guy who is, third fastest receiver in the league based off 40-yard time, second fastest. I think it's an automatic win who is going to give you high production day one, both in that receiving game and kickoff and punt game as well.
Okay. I like that. I think that's an unsung part of the story is the fact that they have 2 really good interior offensive line possibly leaving. So I think the question is obviously they're looking at receiver, but also these guys are going to be key. And if you lose them, how are you going to replace them? So I do think that is definitely in play for them, trying to retool some of those pieces, but also just completely revamping the wide receiver room. I think is a really big choice for them.
For sure.
I like it. And I
Yeah,
like
I
the
mean,
Elijah Surratt pick too.
yeah, I mean, Gabe Davis, has a big knee injury coming out for the year. Joe Verse, same thing, big knee injury. So you're left with Khalil Shakur, who, is a great slot guy, but there's not much on the outside. So you get a, big body and Elijah Surratt, guy who's been in college for a little while, high production, has been in a high octane offense. They get like 15 touchdowns last year. And then a really key, no speedy gadget receiver in Brennan Thompson,
Yeah.
who can impact the game more than just the receiving game.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. I like it. All right, last one for me. I got the New York Jets.
Okay.
Oh man, this is one that they got a lot to do, and I got a lot of moves for them. 87 million in cap space to work with. We got a couple moves for cap changes. We're gonna cut Justin Fields. I think this is really obvious. Post June 1st, you save about $10 million in cap. Just did not work out. You need to completely rehaul what's going on there. We're going to do a restructure that's to Brandon Stevens' contract. I don't think they're gonna cut him. I think conversion
Yeah.
you save about 8 million. Resignings, we got a couple. We're gonna re-sign Max Mitchell, 1 year, 2 million. Nick Folk to 1 year, 4 million. We're gonna tender John Mechie, or about 4 million. We're gonna re-sign Kene Ngannou. It's a great returner for them, 1 year, 2 million. And yeah, so that's my re-signings.
Mhm.
Acquisitions. I'm gonna first. You got to hear me out on this. We're gonna get Kyler Murray.
Okay.
I think they're gonna cut Kyler Murray. That's what all signs are pointing to. I don't think the
Yeah.
Jets are gonna willingly have their asking price. Put him on a relatively cheap 1 year to 2 year deal. Kind of a prove it year guy, prove it year for a quarterback. Signings. This says very similar. I really think they're going to go free agency with defense and kind of draft a different way. So signings, I'm going to sign James Daniel to a 1 year, $6 million contract. It'll be kind of a, rotational guy. I know it's in division, definitely has his injury issues,
Mhm.
but, high upside, could play as your starting left guard, low upside, just kind of a rotational piece. 3 big signings on the defense. First, we're bringing in Nashawn Wright to a 3 year, $50 million contract. What do the Jets need more than anything in this world? Turnovers. Who gets turnovers? Nashawn Wright. This is one of my biggest locks for like
Mhm.
free agent off signings is Nashawn Wright to the Jets. We're also gonna replace Andre Cisco and bring in Nick Cross to a 4 year, $24 million deal. I do know Indy's going to want to bring him back, but I think the asking price for him is going to be a little too high considering how much they spent
Mhm.
last year. And then finally, we're going to bring in Leo Chenal to a 3 year, $30 million deal. I really like this Leo Chenal signing. I think he is one of the most underrated players in the free agency class. Jets desperately need linebacker help. I think Leo Chenal can help deliver it to him and Jamian Sherwood. I think it's a great move. So now you're kind of left with, 30, 45 million cap with the draft. My
Mhm.
first pick, I'm going to go with Arvell Reese.
I like it.
You don't want to get it mixed and twisted. There's been so much movement. I just think Arvell Reese fits what they're going to want to do more. He is that Micah Parsons guy. Just
Mhm.
plays 2 positions they desperately need: outside edge help and linebacker. You can move him all around the board. I think this would be a slam dunk pick for them. My next pick in the first round, I'm going with KC Concepcion, wide receiver from Texas A&M. They need wide receiver help. I know they have Adonai Mitchell and Mechie who could play more of that outside with Garrett Wilson. KC Concepcion is your slot guy. He is an instant upgrade in that receiver room. You're going to bring in a quarterback. They're going to need more weapons than what they have. I think Concepcion is a great pick at this spot. Here's my surprise pick with their next pick in the second round, their first pick in the second round.
Quarterback?
I'm going with Ty Simpson.
Okay.
I don't think Ty Simpson goes in the first round. I think
Mhm.
that there's just so much value in all the athletes and defensive ends and edge rushers that I just don't see Ty Simpson going the first. But I do think, listen, the Jets are they need something. They are desperate. I just don't think they bring in Kyler Murray. You need a quarterback. You are going to gamble with your picks. You have 4 picks, 2 seconds, 2 firsts. why not gamble with a quarterback? Bring in Ty Simpson. Maybe he sits a year. Maybe Kyler Murray gets benched. I just don't think you can solve all your answers with Kyler Murray. I think Ty Simpson is kind of a wait and see kind of guy. So I do think they're going to take him. And with my next pick, this is definitely a surprise one. I'm going with one of the biggest winners in the entire NFL combine. That is Mike Washington Jr., running
I
back
like
out
it.
of Arkansas.
Yeah.
This guy has gone under the radar for a while. He's a great running back at Arkansas, but he arguably had the best combine out of any running back. And I think he
Mhm.
propelled himself up to a possible day 2 pick. And I think the Jets are going to need running back help. I don't think Jadarian Price falls that far. You know, Mike Washington and Braylon Allen, freak athlete running back duo. And I think that is a great mix. You know, you're adding so many more veteran pieces on a defense that really needs it. You're getting the high upside of Arvell Reese, but you're also addressing your offensive woes, going with some really good players with high potential. I think this would be a fantastic offseason for the Jets.
No, definitely. I think, and we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, that pick 2 is where this draft starts. There's reports of them potentially going Sonny Styles, linebacker. There's been reports, of its edge rushers. Is it Ruben Bain? Is it David Bailey? But I do think it's Arvell Reese. I think with the structure of that team right now, you can kind of wait a year or two and let Arvell Reese really, figure out what position he is. And not only that, but let him develop. If he becomes a Micah Parsons, Micah Parsons early on wasn't a, 3-down pass rusher. He was a guy that was in coverage, first, second down, and was rushing the passer third down. So is that what you do with Arvell Reese? Do you kind of play him that Bruce Irvin type? Where you're, pass rushing, pass coverage, is he strictly all pass? You have time to figure that out. Yeah, and then, Ty Simpson, if he's there in the second round, I don't think he is a second round talent. I think he
No.
will, or I don't think he's a first round talent. I think because of his position, there's a chance he might still be taken in the first round.
Yeah, I think it for me it was like because I could see either Casey Concepcion falling a little bit
Hmm.
because of some of those risers to wide receivers, or Ty Simpson kind of falling because there's just so much talent in the first round. But again, there are a lot of teams that need quarterbacks, and there are I think that people are kind of moving away from Ty Simpson conversation, but I would not be surprised to hear his name called in one of those kind of middle of the first round teams that desperately needs a quarterback. But I just think you got to get really good players on both sides of the ball, really good athletes. I think this is what needs to be done.
Oh, for sure. And speaking of athletes, is it Mike Washington was
Yeah.
next pick? I mean, you rarely see a guy that's that size and runs that fast. He's what?
Mm,
He's almost 230.
yeah.
230 pounds. And I think you can argue that that combine and with, a lot of times in the combine, people will have a general idea of prospects and then might go back and watch the film of prospects that really performed well in the combine. I think, Mike Johnson might put himself in that running back 2 conversation.
Yes.
Jadarian Prince didn't quite have the best combine, had some, concentration drops, things like that. I think Mike Johnson might 100% be running back 2 right now.
Yes. I do. Yeah.
And him potentially being a Brees Hall, replacement is fantastic.
Yeah, man. But yeah, so that concludes the third installment of Offseason
Mhm.
Mocks. We have one more round, and it is with our favorite teams and divisions, the AFC South and the NFC North, excuse me. But we want to say for everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Goal Line Guys on season 2. Let us know what you guys think of our offseason mocks. Do you think that there is anyone that we messed up? Do you think there is anyone that could be locks for different teams? Do you agree with our draft picks? Did combine numbers maybe change some stuff for you guys? Because I think when I look back at some of my earlier videos, it definitely
Yeah.
has. It definitely
No, for sure.
has. So, but let us know what you guys think in the comments below. You know, make sure to like, make sure to follow us, do everything. We're always here for you guys, And Josh, thank you for another awesome episode, man. I love this.
Yeah, James, right back at you. And everyone out there, we have, one more installment. So if you hated this series, you got one more. And then, afterwards, free agency is going to be starting up. We're going to probably do some more mock drafts, especially, after combine stuff. we got a lot in store for y'all. So, bear with us for one more episode, and then we'll get right on that.
Or if you love it, you could just keep begging for more and more and more. But
Exactly.
you
Yeah,
never
we'll
know.
go.
But
Let us know.
thank you, Josh, for another great episode, my man. You have a great rest of your day, and we will keep checking up on the NFL offseason.